This podcast is for educational purposes only. Please consult your doctor before changing any medical care. This information, products, or comments contained within this podcast is not approved by the FDA for the treatment or diagnosis of any disease. Although we attempt to keep the information up to date and current, we cannot guarantee the information is up to date at the time of this recording. Individual results will vary. No one should expect the outcomes or results mentioned or described in this podcast. Health shares do not constitute health insurance and do not provide a guarantee to pay for your medical bills. Please consult your broker, general counsel, and/or doctor before changing your healthcare plan. Envita and Envita Health makes no guarantees for outcomes and results. Hey, John, thank you for joining me. I'm Dr. Dino Prato, founder and CEO of Envita Medical Centers, and I'm here with Dr. John Oertle, Chief Medical Director, and as part of building programs and protocols on our team. We're here to do a quick series on FAQ and answering the most common questions that we get and trying to keep them up to date for our patients. The first question that we got from patients is, what types of treatments, John, do we do here at Envita? And with that, the question is, how do we build our treatment plans and protocols? And then how is Envita different than, let's say, any other type of medical facility? So before we jump in, I want people to know that Envita has been developed over 23 years, 2 decades plus of treating late stage and chronic disease patients that have failed care, particularly in cancer, have failed treatment, even in our tick-borne illnesses, but they have failed care elsewhere and now are coming here for help. So all of our algorithms are designed to respond when people fail care. And as we go into this, our care, what we see is that 90% of the patients, actually even higher than that, based on our algorithms, are on the wrong protocols. They're doing the wrong type of care. That's really interesting. So what you're about to learn here about the way we do care, it's very unique. It's the best of conventional and the best of integrative medicine. And it's unique, it's precision. So we're not biased to the type of medicine we're using. We're letting the data and the laboratory information tell us what the patient needs and helps us for the patient response. So John, let's go with that on this first question is, what types of treatments does Envita provide? And I guess, we'll focus on the oncology side of this because I think it's easier as far as, helping people understand what we do.
Yeah, in a nutshell, we are precision medicine.
Yeah.
And a precision from the conventional side and a precision from the integrative natural side. It's all based upon the individual data markers for the actual patient. And so that's for oncology. There's precision chemotherapy that we call our GTFC.
That's right.
There's precision radiation oncology. There's precision surgery, which we do under Envita Interventional Radiology. And we have the precision immunotherapies that we design immunotherapies based upon the individual patient.
So to help patients better understand this, I'm going to give an example because I think oftentimes an example goes a world of difference. Okay, so we take a stage, early stage, late stage is what Envita does well. And really that's where what you want to focus on, because if you can treat late stage, early stage is much easier, right? Late stage is more complicated. So we help people perform when they fail elsewhere, which already tells you our technology is better, right? Because we have to go beyond the standard testing. We got to go deep into precision. But let's take a relatively early stage breast cancer, maybe 1, 2, maybe even early 3, which it would be considered later stage. But so the breast cancer is the tumor is located in the breast, right? And so in a conventional model, let's just give this scenario, you will go in and there would be a lumpectomy. You would look at NCCN, National Comprehensive Cancer Network guidelines for chemotherapy. And then after the chemotherapy, you would then do radiation with the goal of the disease maybe not returning. But some of these cancers have as high as a 20-30% return after several years. And the patient's on the watch wait. I hope it worked. Let me keep my eyes on the markers. Conventional oncology, the idea is you get to it early, right? Because you're going to have the magic in conventional oncology is in the surgery, right? Getting it out and making sure it doesn't escape. Now, that is standard of care oncology for breast cancer.
And yet, let me just share this, because even with surgery, if you do a lumpectomy or mastectomy, what does that do? It increases risk of spread of the cancer.
Inflammation and spread.
And it actually increases the likelihood of metastatic disease when you undergo surgery, but it also suppresses immunity.
That's
It
the key.
suppresses immunity, which is a big deal. And so
So,
that's one of those reasons where it's difficult to be able to recover or difficult to be able to treat the root cause if that actual root cause is an infection or some other root cause. It suppresses immunity. So if there's
and
cells that have already released, it doesn't allow it to be able to actually
so
take care
that
of
is
the
not
immune system to find the cancer.
that's not necessarily a bad option, right? When people think that's all they have surgery. Now let's take you to what Envita does, which is totally different. Before we even begin the treatment, we understand if the cancer has already spread. How do we do that? Circulating tumor cells, CT-free DNA. We look at mutation. We look at mRNA. We look at metabolomics, proteomics. We're way, way beyond anything anybody sees. And that data in our algorithm says this is already moved beyond the original tumor. There's metastatic language because cells begin to move before you see them in imaging. So in the imaging, it might look like it's in the breast, but it's already laying the messaging for spread. So number one, we recognize that it's already high risk or metastasizing. And at that point, we begin with the algorithms with these genetic targets for the chemotherapy, genetic targets for the integrative agents and adjuvants, but we also build custom immunotherapies because we want to turn on the body's immune system to recognize that cancer. So we would begin in this particular protocol utilizing our CIPI, chemo, right? Precision injection right to the immunoprecision injection right to the tumor, which turns on the antigens like squeezing an orange or a lemon, as we've said many times. And now the rest of the body recognizes the cancer cells and are able to seek and destroy. Then we come in and instead of surgically removing it using newer technology, we freeze the tumor, protecting the immune system and those antigens, killing the cancer right on contact. So you don't need to do surgery, removal. And then we systemically treat the body by going after what the cause of the cancer might be, whether it's estrogen dominance, whether it's infectious disease, chemicals, heavy metals, a series of different things, rebuild the immune system, and also, if necessary, the systemic targeted GTFC chemo, which is microdose, metronomic dose. This is 7 to 10 years ahead, and you're not going to find that in an integrative facility, right? On the integrative side, they might give a patient vitamin C and nutrient, which is fine. And on the conventional side, they might do surgeries, radiation, whatever. That may be fine. But here we're talking about precision. The patient gets a procedure. By the next morning, the cancer's gone. And already now we're working with genetic information and systemic information with our team. Board certified oncology, board certified interventional radiology, board certified infectious disease, board certified internal medicine, MDH, medical doctors of homeopathy, naturopathic doctors, but all operating under Envita's algorithms, which any doctor joining our team has to go through 1,500 hours. It doesn't matter if they were an oncologist or doing research at some other institution, 1,500 hours of training at Envita, and 1 year before they understand our custom algorithms to build the treatment plan. Now, that's very different than walking into any major cancer institute in the country and being given a protocol, a standard protocol for that patient. So I just want to point that out as that being a really important piece and a critical piece of how different that is than both conventional and really to understand Envita. Envita is not alternative medicine. That's not the right term. It's precision on all of the fronts. So the patient is getting the best targets and going beyond standard biopsy and tissue type, but going into genomics, going into resistance, going into immunotherapy, where some of these cancers currently don't have good immunotherapy. So we are able, with testing, to go both off-label, custom build, develop that immune system so that we get a longer, better response. Whenever you have strong immunotherapy and you're treating the cancer like this, and we're tracking the patient, we're not scared of a return because we're monitoring and we understand the patient's immune system, which reduces the recurrence of disease. So
You know, that's absolutely right. I was just wanted to add, we do the best in diagnostic testing for the patient. And this is where we use tests across the world with the technology to be able to bring in to our center, because that level of information, it starts with a high level of information precise to the patient's body and blood work and tissue. And those biomarkers, we use tests worldwide and bring them in. And that technology worldwide to be able to bring those in. When we actually then identify Then we go to work on actually the ability to compound, to be able to actually deliver and be able to administer those therapies that come from Envita's history of 23 years of clinical experience, the algorithms, proven outcomes, and then the continuation of the actual data that we scour throughout the course of
And
the peer-reviewed journals.
I just want to add, the sooner you implement precision, regardless of your stage, the better, because now you're taking the guesswork out and you're getting targeting. And I wanted to talk about, you can see now how over 90% of every case we see is on the wrong treatment plan because nobody does this level of precision. Oncology right now, as we're recording this, has less than 20% of patients that even get precision testing. And it's pretty watered down. It's just basic. We know these genetic companies, they're the big ones in the US. They come and meet with us. They're like, you guys are way ahead. You're 7 to 10 years ahead of what anyone else is doing. Nobody typically has molecular tumor boards. We do. We review the treatment plan for the safety and the best target with the entire team with molecular targeting, not protocols. And then we build the protocol. We have our own pharmacies where we, through 503A custom compounding, are able to build the custom medications. Very important because right now there are a shortage of chemotherapeutics. We have the ability to make and customize, bring those in by prescription for patients. We also work with commercially available meds. We work with integrative agents, and we're targeting all of these. And so GTFC, just breaking this down real quick, because I think this is one of the most important questions. How are we different? Our chemotherapy is unlike anywhere because of the targeting level and the combinations. And we're able to give it at 10 or 15, 20% the dose. But then we also have a way of delivering it in a nanotechnology in addition to that. So not only are we low dose, but in some cases, understanding that the cancer has metabolic functions, whether it's insulin or the metabolic problem is inflammation, or remember, cancer is a metabolic disease. We use that metabolic window to deliver the targets to the patient in microdoses, and we get wonderful responses even when they fail elsewhere. Okay. Number two, that's GTFC, and that's targeted. That's Envita. We've been using GTFC now for 15 plus longer years. We have lots of experience in this targeting. The second one, go ahead,
When
John.
you talk about 90% of the Envita patients that we see are on the wrong chemotherapy regimen, what that means is that when we run the testing, the chemotherapy, there's genes or biomarkers that are already showing prediction that the chemo that they're on, it's already resistant to it. It's wrong.
Right.
It's wrong. And it's not killing the cancer, it's actually creating more side effects. That's all
right.
it's doing. Now, the other thing that we also see is that it actually, the chemo that they're on is being given in a wrong dosage form, in too high of a dosage, because it's not being metabolized effectively from the body, and they have genetics called pharmacogenetics that are causing more side effects in this patient. So you're going to have a risk of being on a specific chemotherapy that's going to lead to kidney disease, or that's going to lead to other disease states that are unfavorable for the patient. And so this is where we are analyzing that to be able to reduce the dosage, to be able to make sure that it's done in the right chemo, in the right dosage that's supportive to the patient. Very important.
Very important. And within those pharmacogenomics, remember that some people metabolize fast and others slow. So you adjust the medicines to not only target the genetics of the tumor and the mechanisms within the cancer to help it die, but at the same time, you're targeting now the body's ability to metabolize it at the right dose. And then with techniques like SIPI under image guided interventional radiology oncology, we're going in with a catheter the size of your hair right to the tumor, delivering the medicine not to the whole body, but right where the tumor needs it, killing the tumor, building the immune system response to the body. In the world of modern oncology, and it's hard for me not to get excited, I've been doing this for 2 decades, it's Star Wars compared to what we see in conventional oncology, not offending anyone. We wish everybody the best. And, a lot of these rank and file oncologists, they're limited to their organizations. They got to see 20 patients a day. They're following standard protocol, standard insurance billing. What Envita is doing is such a high level precision that we find often that type of care archaic. And I think in 7 to 10 years, as we've proven in the past, a lot of these organizations will say the same, because it's not that we're doing something that's not only unique, it's coming. Because if you go to the conferences, NGS, next generation sequencing, it's coming. Immunotherapy, it's there and it's getting better. Envita's already doing that. And on the integrative side, where you'll have a doctor say, well, I don't think that's proven, there's nothing there to support that. That's false too, because there's thousands of published peer-reviewed papers that already show you its combinations with chemo, with genetic targets. And what Envita does in its bioinformatic algorithm is customize this for each individual patient. That is a huge advantage. So you can imagine why we have people responding often where they don't respond elsewhere. It's just because we're detail oriented. So this is not alternative medicine, it is precision medicine. And by the grace of God and the innovations that we have, and I really believe that also is something that we've been blessed with, is with the team and the technology, we're moving to bring this within the practice of medicine now to the patient, and not, they can't wait. If they need the care now, they can't wait 5 or 10 years to begin to access it. They're accessing it right now. So in a nutshell, we're incredibly different than conventional with better targeting. And just a little piece here, because I know we're supposed to just keep these short, but it's hard. We've had calls, John, I want you to share it. And I think this is a good story I'm thinking about, where we were on the phone and an oncologist had called us from a hospital that had somehow was seeing one of our patients and was considering giving a chemotherapeutic. And we called and we said, don't touch the patient. They finally called, the oncologist from the hospital called our oncology team. We said, don't touch. We have data that says that chemo will not work. And that oncologist on the other side said, look, I don't know what I'm looking at because we sent over some of the data, but I know enough to not use this medication and to follow the recommendations you're giving us, because we're operating with more information. Just remember, the old model, which is today, is just pathology, which is great, but we're beyond pathology. We're into genomics, into immunotherapy, spatial biology. We're into looking at how the cells are responding, interacting with each other, messaging, metabolomics, proteomics. This is where oncology will be going. We're ahead of it. And we have to be. People ask, well, if you're doing it, why isn't others doing it? Because we have been for the last 2 decades, our patients have already failed that type of care. We had to evolve so that we could provide oftentimes life-saving, life-extending options that patients deserve access to. So that's really what has driven we're outcome driven. We're passionate on outcomes. That will be our way going forward. By the grace of God, as I'm here and leading this company from the head down, we are outcome oriented. We're here to provide our patients the best options to extend their lives. Do you have anything else you want to add before I wrap up this Q&A on Envita's treatments?
Yeah, one of the reasons that standard oncology does not do this work is because they're just not trained in it. They don't have the training, and this is what I've oftentimes seen is that they're not trained in. Even let's give the example of vitamin C. You mentioned vitamin C or other integrative modalities, and I oftentimes see patients coming on in, and they say that the oncologist said, don't take any of those supplements.
Yeah.
And they just are concerned, like, I don't know what those supplements are. And oftentimes patients are trying to do their best. And I'm not even saying that those are good supplements to be on, because even that there's better, and what we deliver is
It's
the
not
best
precision.
integrative care.
It's not precision.
But an oncologist just doesn't know. And then they're trying to be able to actually figure out, the standard of care along with what the patient's desiring, and they're just not trained for it.
No.
We have 1,500 hours with even very tenured oncologists that need to learn precision, molecular targeting. That's just the first step. And then you add in the integrative, which there's targets that drugs do not have, that only natural targets have to be able to target these actual biomarkers. And those are things that I want to say the oncologist has absolutely no idea about, but even the integrative doctor has maybe some idea about, but is not using it in any precision modality. They're just throwing it at patients.
I would add, John, that I've seen in a few top cancer facilities, the research people looking at those integrative agents. In fact, lecturing about them, but knowing that they can't use them in their facility, not to mention the names of these facilities. These are the ones that are on TV. They're well known. They're the nation's best, and they'll be doing this R&D work, or at least looking at the papers, really excited to talk about it, but they can't use it in practice. Why? Because physicians are trained in pharmacology or in procedures. They're not trained in integrative care, and you need both. They're both powerful. They both have supportive actions when you understand how to use them. And that's why, we're even seeing conventional doctors and the growth of functional medicine, because in primary care or in cardiology and other areas, they're learning that, hey, diet, lifestyle, metabolic targeting, nutrition, supplements, all these things play a role to how the body can heal. You can't just give pharma, you have to combine that. And even pharma sees that. They've acquired some of the largest supplement manufacturers in the country are now owned by pharma. So it's changing. But the important thing to realize is that when you come to Envita, you're getting something unique from a standard alternative medicine and something very unique from just a standard conventional oncology. You're getting precision on both levels at the highest level. And we know this too because when our physicians attend their continuing education, whether they're in the interventional radiology or oncology or in the integrative medicine, they always come back. And this is from their mouth. We are way ahead of anything that they're seeing because we're already doing the work that they're discussing, and we already know the limitations of those areas and are improving on it. So we're very blessed. We have a great team, but that is in a nutshell how we're different. And precision in the published literature and in our clinical experience wins every day of the week and twice on Sunday over the other options. And it's in the published literature. We're not saying this. And I always want to be clear that, Envita can't make guarantees for every patient and that, but whenever you get precision involved, you have a better prescription. And that's made just for you, not for a large cohort that had your similar cancer type, because that's just not how cancer works. Cancer is a disease of genetics, mutations, metabolism. It's not just a disease of tissue, and that's been the mistake. And I think I've even talked about this a decade or two ago, even in my earlier webinars. It's not a disease of tissue; it's of this genomic information. And the sad thing is, nobody's doing it effectively. We are, and we want to see more people do it. We want more doctors to engage in that, and they will. And it's kind of a function of insurance companies bringing it on, allowing it to cover it, and these large infrastructure organizations to have the right infrastructures to provide that type of care. But that's what Envita does. 200 people on our staff, precision image guided surgery, very simple. Your local, it's a minor general anesthetic. You're not getting general anesthesia, you're getting very minor stuff. You're better by the morning. Our chemotherapy in a loving environment. So it's very different than anywhere else, by the grace of God. I always say that because it's been a long journey getting here and continuing to do this work, but we're blessed. We're blessed with our team and the technology we have. So I think we kind of answered that question. So I hope that was helpful on what are Envita's treatments? How is it different? So thank you for joining us, and may God bless you on your journey to healing. And we'll be doing some more Q&A answers as well.